Recorded. What's good, YouTube? We finna react to this video. Why you wouldn't survive The Walking Dead? You feel me? Me personally, I watched the entire Walking Dead series. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I think personally, I'm surviving The Walking Dead easily. You feel me? I think Walking Dead is the easiest zombie series, movie, whatever that you can survive in, for real. Like walkers, really the only problem in The Walking Dead is people, bruh. Like zombies really not the problem in The Walking Dead once you get like established and stuff. You feel me? So we
In
finna
the
check
world
it
of The
out.
Walking Dead, we see humanity brought to the very brink of extinction by a mysterious disease dubbed the wildfire.
Who y'all favorite character in The Walking Dead? I ain't gonna lie, bruh. I have to give it to my nigga Daryl. Hey, my nigga Daryl. Hey, my nigga Daryl tough. Hey, my nigga Daryl tough, bruh.
Virus, wiping out over 99% of the world's population and turning people into flesh-eating monsters referred to in the series as walkers. And although
Bruh,
that
I ain't
all
even
sounds
know that
very bad on
game.
paper, I still think a lot of people watch
Oh
the
my
series
god, Carl. Carl, bruh. Bro, when Carl died, that was like top 2 saddest moments in entertainment history. Like ever, man. That was like so sad. When he got bit, oh spoiler warning, you feel me? Spoiler. When he got bit and he was just doing stuff, like he just knew his life was over. Like that shit was so eye-opening.
and think, yeah, surviving in this world would be a piece of cake. I'm sure I could morph into a prime Rick Grimes, grab my red-handled machete, and start hacking some slow-moving
That
zombies
boy
to
Rick
death.
Cold.
But I'm here to be
Boy
the bearer
Rick
of
Cold.
bad news and tell you, you're very wrong. Because when society collapses, there are far deadlier factors at play than merely just avoiding
Hey
walker
bro,
bites.
Walking Dead
So
is the
this
easiest
is why
series to
you
survive, gang.
wouldn't survive The Walking Dead.
Let's see, bruh. The Walkers.
Okay,
Who you think got the scariest zombies or like creatures? You feel me? I'm saying Resident Evil, boy, or not Resident Evil. What's that called? Last of Us, boy. The spores game. All you gotta do is breathe in spores and you die. Like that's literally OP, game. If you just breathe it in, you die. You know how hard that is? Like imagine you just go in the building and spores pop up. You just cook instantly.
know I've just stated that there's more to worry about than just being bitten by a walker, but we must first address the elephant in the room, and
The
that is
walkers.
the flesh-eating reanimated corpses that call this universe home. Now, at first glance, any zombie seen in the series post-season 1, I'll admit, would be fairly easy to deal with in isolation. But not
All
only
them
did the
games.
series creator Robert Kirkman confirm that the zombies in this universe outnumber the living roughly 5,000 to 1, but I also see people when
5,000 to
tackling
1.
this hypothetical scenario totally
Y'all killing 5,000 zombies by yourself?
dismiss one crucial fact, and that is the concept of zombie media just doesn't
Oh
exist in
my
the world of The
gosh,
Walking
bro.
Dead.
Like I'm
I mean, think
reminiscing
about
right
it. We've
now.
all grown up watching Shaun of the Dead, playing Plants vs Zombies, or binging horror films, and because of this, we are familiar with the fairly universal rules of these undead monsters,
They
i.e.
don't run.
must destroy the brain to kill them,
Yup.
a bite means you're infected, and
Yup.
avoid population-dense areas at all
Yup.
costs. But the people of the Walking Dead universe, with you included if you were dropped into it, would have no idea of these aforementioned zombie rules, or even the concept of a zombie itself. It would just be a totally
Bro, that's an interesting question, gang. You think niggas in zombie universes, like they don't got no zombie media, like they don't got no Walking Dead, they don't got like no zombie movies, like they know nothing about zombies, gang? You think that's true? I don't think that's true. They have to got like nobody in your entire universe thought of zombies before.
alien concept, decreasing your chances of survival massively. So, let me set the scene for you all.
That's a crazy
One night, your
hypothetical,
dad
gang.
becomes sick with a strange illness, and that night, whilst asleep in your room, you suddenly wake up
This
to the
nigga Picasso
excruciating
on
pain
my
of
screen,
your own
gang.
father biting into your arm. But your immediate reaction after waking up would not be to smash your dad's skull in with a lamp and amputate your infected arm, because you wouldn't even understand the sheer severity of the situation until it was way too late.
Rick.
And I know that example sounds incredibly
I
niche
don't
and
care.
specific, but this is
Where's
exactly how
Rick?
millions of people would be caught off guard. When a loved one is burning up with a fever and acting violently, our instincts would be to comfort them, try and calm them down, or call an ambulance, not grab a
Boy, this shit cat. Boy, even when my relatives get sick, bro, I do not go near them, bro. First, you talk to them first, bro. Like, I wouldn't see a relative sick and instantly go get closer to them, bro. I'm gonna be like, "Are you sick?" You feel me? And if they're a zombie, they're not responding to me, bro. If I see my relative and they don't respond to me after I ask them to get sick, boy, best believe I'm not going close to them.
shotgun and end their existence. And it's this fundamental lack of knowledge that would sweep across the planet, causing the death of millions, long before many of you could pick up a baseball bat, wrap it in barbed wire, and start strutting around the apocalypse.
Oh my
Little pig,
God.
little pig.
And even if you did somehow manage to survive,
Bro, he's the most evilest nigga ever. Most evilest nigga ever. I'm forgetting his name, bro. What's his name, bro? Negan. Boy, if you watch Walking Dead, you know that scene when he bashed Glenn head in? That was the toughest scene in the entire show. That's what's tougher to watch than watching Carl slowly die again. Ain't gonna lie.
the initial wave of domestic horror, your survival would still boil largely down to sheer geographical.
Hot take, the hospital era, hospital section, or whatever you want to say, worst era of The Walking Dead. That was so boring to me.
Luck. Because if you
That
live
shit
in a
was
major
trash.
city, the odds are already stacked against you. Picture hearing the chaotic news reports of a virus making people uncontrollably violent while you sit alone in a high-rise apartment. You would have no idea what to do in those crucial first few days. Do you fight back against these crazed individuals chasing you down the street, or is there a vaccine on the way that can heal them all? But little do you know, the entire world is
staying in my
already
room.
infected and there is no cure coming. And even if you did decide to fight back for your life, how long would it take you to realize that body shots do absolutely nothing against these things, and the only way to
Probably-
stop them is with a direct blow to the brain?
Probably after
My
5
point
kills.
is, many people would die long before Rick Grimes even woke up from his coma in the series, as they just simply would have no idea what threat they were dealing with. And that's not to mention, even if you did survive the initial
guess that's
days
true.
/ weeks of the apocalypse, how easy it would be to let your guard down for just a moment and get bitten, or have your camp invaded by a passing horde of the dead. I mean, take Tyrese from the main team.
Bro, that is true, bro. Like, I don't think niggas realize if you're in a zombie apocalypse, you gotta have your guard up 25-8, gang. 25-8. Cause nigga, a zombie can bite your toe, gang, and you're done.
Series, for example, a 6-foot-tall, physically capable former NFL player is caught off guard by a singular walker. And later on in the
only
show, we
takes
saw this
one
with Carl
bite,
Grimes as
gang.
well. Just one lapse of judgment or one wrong turn could mean your end. Add to the fact
Damn.
you'd probably be sleep deprived, starving, and dehydrated, and it makes these mistakes a lot easier to occur. So although the zombies from The Walking Dead might not be clicker-level threats, they still possess a very real danger.
Clicker's definitely the
Whether
worst
it's from a
zombies.
lack of knowledge, being caught off
And
guard,
Last
or
of
the
Us.
sheer numbers of them roaming around. But hey, at least walkers are somewhat in your control. The next factor
Not Last
is
of Us, we're talking
entirely
about World War
based
Z.
on your immune system.
The virus itself. I don't think the
So
Walking
now
Dead
we've
virus is
identified just one
airborne,
of the
though.
many threats of surviving in this world. Let's look into something that only further decreases your chances of survival. And that is, of course, the wildfire virus itself. So to understand why your immune system is your biggest liability here, we first have to look at how the wildfire virus itself actually operates. And this
Alright.
brings us nicely to one of the biggest plot twists in the entire series.
Bro, I would be
and that is
scared
the
as hell if
secret
I was
Dr.
Rick.
Jenna whispers
I
to
don't know
Rick
how
Grimes in
he's just
season 1, revealing
going
that
through that shit.
everybody is infected, including living people. But what does this mean for your survival chances? Well, we all know the virus turns people into flesh-eating monsters and relies on reanimated hosts to pass on the deadly infection via bites. But what people fail to account for, as seen throughout Fear the Walking Dead Season 1, is a huge portion of the world's population flat out died from the virus without being bitten. Now,
What?
putting a number on just how many
I didn't
people
even know
died
that.
from this would be purely speculation, as it's never actually been stated in the series. But we can say with absolute certainty, your immune system
Bro,
might
y'all know the Last of Us fungus is real, gang. That's a real fungus. And I seen a report, bro. If that fungus like somehow evolved to survive our body heat, will literally turn to zombies. Cause you know it works on ants because it can survive ants' body heat, but it can't survive ours. That's why it's not able to make it us a host. But if it adapted and it was able to survive the body heat of a human, then that'll literally be the start of the zombie apocalypse right there.
not be able to combat the initial infection in the first place. Essentially meaning no amount of combat training, stockpiling food, or rural living will protect you if you are one of the millions who simply fall sick and die on day one of the apocalypse. Let that sink in. In August of 2010, the virus swept across the globe and infected everybody, laying dormant in billions, and you might just get genetically unlucky. So, your body reacts poorly to the initial pathogen, you run a fatal fever, and you're basically dead before you even realise a zombie apocalypse is happening. And ultimately, this factor is totally out of your control. And there is a very real threat that your immune system wouldn't even let you survive the first 48 hours. On top of this, due to how the virus works, even if you or somebody else dies from a non-zombie related incident, like a heart attack or infection for example, they will come
You
back
turn
as a
into a
walker,
zombie,
which
bro.
is
That's
why it's so
crazy.
hard to maintain a community in this environment,
Bro,
because
I
all
don't
it
remember,
takes
but
is
I think in The
one
Walking Dead you
non-walker
gotta burn
related
everybody.
fatality and it can cause
Like you can't
utter
bury people
chaos if you're not
unless they get shot in the
extremely
head.
careful.
You gotta shoot them in the head if they die without like you know what I'm
If
saying.
you haven't already gathered, there's a huge element of luck that goes into surviving the apocalypse, but things will now get even
Even
worse.
bro,
Let's assume you get genetic.
it's the only real problem that I will ever face in The Walking Dead. Like the other survivors, I don't really know what I could do. It's really nothing you could do. Like you either get lucky or you don't. But for me, like you either get lucky or you don't.
Lucky, survive the copious amounts of walkers roaming around the streets, and none of your family get infected. Well, now you have to deal with the pleasure of other survivors. Now, I already find dealing with people hard enough in the real world, so now imagine a crazed psycho like the governor who has zero regard for human life and views you purely as an expendable asset, rolling up on you with a tank.
I have
But
a
this nigga look
tank.
like Captain
My point
America.
is, we quite clearly see in the series the biggest
I look like
threats
Charlie
after
Kirk.
the initial fall of society
RIP.
is other people, and walkers quickly become a background hazard. Make no mistake, the post-apocalyptic landscape is an utterly ruthless place, and it's usually the worst of the worst who will survive. The character of Dale sums this up perfectly in Season 2,
The worst of
where
the
he
worst
describes this
survive.
new world as now being survival of the fittest. When supplies are scarce, shelter is limited, and disagreements happen, unfortunately, people will very quickly resort to violence in order to solve disputes and problems.
That boy got that
We
desert
even
ego.
see it in the real world, so when you remove the punishment.
Another tough take, bruh. I didn't even like the governor era. I ain't gonna lie. That era was mad boring to me, in my opinion. Like that era was mad
And
boring.
consequences of the law, it would basically become the
Negan's
purge on
era is by
steroids.
far the
I think the
best
absolute
chapter
scariest
of
part
The
of the
Walking Dead.
entire apocalypse would without a doubt be dealing with the other
Governor looked
survivors.
tough
You let
though.
your guard down for 1 second or hesitate and someone else could kill you. You run the constant risk of raiders stealing your supplies and doing much, much worse, and if your community's resources are getting tight, even your closest allies might decide your share of the food is worth more than your own life. Ultimately, in order to survive, you would have to be incredibly careful of who you let into your group. If you go it alone, you run the risk of being overwhelmed by a larger group, and if you go for the safety in numbers approach, someone you once trusted might betray you.
Backdoor
To be
you,
brutally
gang.
honest, I dread to think about all the atrocious acts once sophisticated people would be committing in a now lawless world. Murder, SA.
How long do you think your friend group would survive the zombie apocalypse? I ain't gonna lie, bro. Mostly everybody in my friend group watched The Walking Dead, so I think I ain't gonna lie. I think we survived the whole thing. Maybe like 2 people in the friend group would die. I ain't gonna lie. 2 people in the friend group would probably die. But other than that, majority of the friend group would survive. Myself included.
Cannibalism, theft, and much, much more. Add in layers of deceit, lies, and false hope, and it makes every single person you run into in your post apocalyptic journey a potential death trap. Oh, and by the way, spoiler alert, you are not Rick Grimes, so you don't have the main character plot armor we see in the
Who's
series.
already
Just
trying?
think of all the antagonists you could run into in this world: the termites, the governor, the claimers, the wolves, the whisperers, and the list goes on. And these are only the ones we see on screen,
Well,
so
the
think
Whisper is
what
my
else could
second
be
favorite
lurking
era.
out there. In a world of survival of the fittest where hesitation becomes fatal, it would be brutal, exhausting, and a deeply depressing place to try and exist. And look, of course, I'm not saying every single person would be this evil
With that boy
lunatic,
Daryl.
but unfortunately, the vast majority
Daryl's
of us would
tough,
be.
bro.
And it's the sad but ultimately
Daryl's the
realistic
coolest
truth of
character
human
in The
nature.
Walking Dead, hands
Because when our
down.
backs are
Ben's Rick.
against the walls, we become desperate, selfish, and loyalties would very
Oh
quickly go
my
out the window.
gosh.
All it takes is you walking along one day
Who
and
remembers
somebody
that
hiding in the
scene?
bushes decides they want your stuff, so they're going to kill you for it. Or you hesitate in pulling the trigger, realizing the severity of taking another human life,
Oh
only
my
to be
god,
beaten
that
to
nigga
it by
Shane.
that other person who shoots you first. Or, even worse, you walk into a settlement under the pretenses they will take you in and look after you, only to find out it's a bunch of cannibals and you're on the menu tonight. At least with walkers, you know what to expect: a mindless
Bro, you
pursuit
really
of
gotta think about
flesh. As
everything when you in The
humans, they're
Walking Dead,
complicated,
bro. Like, he
cunning,
really
and
opening my
deceitful,
eyes.
making
I
them the
still think I'll
most
survive,
dangerous
though.
post-apocalyptic threat you could possibly find.
You just gotta adapt, gang.
Now, this next factor plays heavily into your geographical location, which I did touch upon earlier, whilst also kind of linking to the other survivors section, because it's people and the military's reaction to the wildfire virus, particularly in cities across America. In the first few days of the outbreak, local police departments quickly became overwhelmed, hospitals filled up, and riots broke out
Bro, who the fuck
nationwide.
is staying in
So
their
the
house,
military
man?
was dispatched into major cities across America, setting up safe zones in strategic areas in
Honestly, bro, I feel like the best place to survive a zombie apocalypse is the desert. The desert. Or maybe the Arctic, bro. Cause like it's just so open, bro. You can see everything. Like, you can see everything. Everything's open. Like those are the best areas to survive.
order to try and regain control from the undead. This, however, would very quickly prove futile, as after just over a week of trying to retake the cities, morale, supplies, and exhaustion quickly overwhelmed the soldiers, as they not only fought an utterly relentless foe, but were also dramatically outnumbered, with central areas of cities crawling with walkers. But what that means for you is if you were a civilian and you lived in a city across America, you would have to get incredibly lucky to already be living within an area the military fenced off and protected as a quote-unquote safe zone, or you'd be stuck in a living hell. After
For
things
real.
went bad, many people tried to exit the cities, in turn blocking up all the highways, making escape for you via vehicle virtually impossible. To make things even worse, the military were ordered to contain the virus, so in turn, they shot anything that moved outside of safe zones, whether you were infected or not. So unless you were in one of these military zones, you'd be playing a constant and very deadly game of hide and seek versus the people who were sent in to supposedly save you. Walkers were now everywhere across the cities, and riots of angry survivors plagued the country. Your chances of being stuck in a city and trying to survive outside of a military safe zone would be very slim. But even if you were lucky enough to be in a safe zone,
What's the
you wouldn't
solution,
fare
gang?
much better in the end, as some camps became overrun, but the worst was yet to come. Because after the military realized they weren't
Bro, would y'all feel safer in a camp zone or at your house? Like you really gotta think. If you're in a camp, all it takes is one zombie to break in there and the whole camp is done, bro. The whole camp is done, and it's probably harder to leave a camp to even get in the camp. You know what I'm saying? It's probably harder to escape the camp than to get in the camp. So you're just gonna be stuck in the camp and it's overrun with walkers. I'm not gonna lie, I think I'd rather stay at my place. Like, well, I don't know. If it's a big camp, like a real open camp, okay, I might stay at the camp. But if it's one of them small camps, nah, gang. Cause take one zombie and you're done, gang.
Going to be able to take back
They're
America's
instantly
cities,
overrun.
they
Ain't
initiated a
nothing. It's
plan
like
to
it's no
try
doors
and
or nothing.
neutralize the virus. In the middle of the night, the military would evacuate their posts and their safe zones, telling no civilians. And only a matter of hours later, before some had even realized their retreat, the city would be bombed with napalm. This top secret mission was dubbed Operation Cobalt, and the only way in Fear the Walking Dead our survivors find out about this classified
Damn.
operation is by literally
That shit just threw my whole plan out the window, nigga. I forgot, bro. They gonna nuke the city, gang. They gonna nuke the city,
capturing
boy.
and torturing a soldier. For many, whilst sound asleep in their supposed safe zones or whilst fighting for their lives outside of them, they would be met by a constant
They gonna
bombardment
nuke the
of
city,
bombs.
gang.
This would not only kill millions of survivors, but also only add to the Walker problem as people subsequently died and reanimated. Operation Cobalt was a colossal military fail and led to the collapse of their control. But this failure meant if you lived in pretty much every city across America except Philadelphia and Portland, who managed to escape this fate, you would almost certainly be killed. As for cities outside of America, like Paris, London, and Barcelona, although not bombed, we see they fared incredibly poorly as well due to the sheer density of people.
That boy
So, in the world
Daryl
of The
so
Walking Dead,
tough,
just merely
bro.
existing in a city essentially becomes a death
I
sentence.
got Daryl beating Rick in a 1v1 every time.
I think often one of the most overlooked challenges within any apocalypse is the mental aspect of it. Let's quickly assume you are
Mm.
within the 1% of survivors, and although the odds aren't in your favour, there is definitely a chance you might survive. While the chances of the people you once loved also being in that 1%, let's just say, are not in your favour. Let's look at Rick Grimes, for example, and just take a second to think about how mentally taxing his journey through the apocalypse was. He lost his wife, his son, countless
Damn.
friends, love interests, and watched Negan bash two of his closest allies' skulls in with a baseball bat. I don't care what anybody says, this is going to have some serious mental repercussions on an individual. And if that isn't enough, let me give you a real world example. Take PTSD in US soldiers from World War II. Each and every brave soul who fought on that battlefield didn't go into it thinking, yeah, this is definitely going to mentally break me for the rest of my existence. But for many of them, unfortunately, it did. On top of this, cases of PTSD only rose in prisoners of war, with nearly 60% of them coming away from the ordeal with the illness, which just proves the human brain
Bro,
in most
everybody in The
cases
Walking
will
Dead got
just break
PTSD.
after witnessing
Nobody alive in The
terrifying
Walking
or
Dead
highly distressing
doesn't have
events, like
PTSD.
these soldiers saw in war or reality
We
check,
seen,
like
hey,
you would be seeing.
we seen what that nigga Rick was going through. That nigga Rick almost, boy, I don't know what the fuck Rick was going through, gang. Like, that nigga was in the darkest place you could possibly be.
In the apocalypse. And watching your family and friends
Nigga
slowly
was just
turn into
floating around.
flesh-eating monsters or seeing them killed in front of your very own eyes is going to mentally destroy you. I think some people would just flat out opt out of existing in a world like this, and others would let it drive them insane. And whilst yes, we all like to think we'd be Rick Grimes dropping some insanely cold one-liners,
Besides, I already made you a promise.
the harsh reality is most of us would more likely resemble a character like Clara from season 4 of the show. A woman who, after the death of her husband, clings on to survival but is depressed, delirious, and all alone. Until one day, Rick stumbles upon her. She tries to lure Rick back to her camp and use him as food for her reanimated husband in a state of delirium. But after he fights her off, she just asks to be left alone to die. As ugly and depressing as it may sound, most of our brains just aren't geared to witness the type of horrors an apocalypse would throw at them. Many people would break and become unhinged shells of their former selves, resulting in survivors breaking mentally long before they did physically.
I didn't even think about that.
In the world of The Walking Dead, as soon as the day
Damn,
hit,
that changed my list. I feel like people still number one most dangerous thing in The Walking Dead. But I'm gonna put mental number 2 now. Cause I ain't even like, bro, that mental space. A lot of people in The Walking, Like if The Walking Dead happened, they'll just be cooked, gang. They'll just be cooked. It'll be like AOT.
August 27th, known in the universe as Monument Day, a timer essentially begins, as this is the point food and other resources stop being produced, and the longer into the apocalypse you go, the more depleted supplies will become. Now, sure, you could try and grow your own food or hunt and fish, but unless you have some basic knowledge in these areas, you'll probably really struggle. We saw in the real world during a certain 2020 global pandemic how people picked the shops clean, leading to global shortages in certain goods. Well, now imagine the impact a zombie apocalypse would have on people's mindsets. They'd loot, steal, and pick clean everything from supermarkets and pharmacies in the first few hours of the outbreak. And after Operation Cobalt decimated the cities, just think about how many supplies were burnt to a crisp in the bombings. Survival would very quickly become a daily struggle. The moment the electrical grid fails, water treatment plants would shut down, and the pristine tap water we completely take for granted now would just flat out be gone. If you resorted to drinking
Yeah,
from
that's ball
stagnant
knowledge right there.
ponds, lakes, or local rivers without the means to properly purify or boil it, you aren't just quenching your thirst, but you're playing a dangerous game with a plethora of waterborne pathogens every time you take a sip. And in a world with zero operating hospitals and no access to basic antibiotics,
See, bro, the thing about me is that growing up, I watch a lot of survival videos, you know, like camping in the forest 24 hours, surviving the Arctic tundra with nothing for a week. You feel me? I watched all them videos, so I got that brain knowledge. You feel me? That's what I'm saying right now. Like, I'll survive The Walking
even the
Dead, bro.
smallest of sicknesses could become
The
fatal.
only
And
thing
then
is, like,
comes
you
the
gotta keep your
starvation
guard up
aspect.
25/8,
Most people have
bro.
absolutely no idea how to grow crops, let alone maintain agricultural land without commercial fertilizers, pesticides, and modern machinery. Your only option would be to scavenge the odd bits of food you could find, and possibly hunt if you had the knowledge and know-how. But as the weeks turn to months and then possibly years, if you've done really well at keeping yourself alive, the challenge would only further increase. Canned goods would expire, medicine would lose its potency, and gasoline would
Oh my
degrade so
God.
much it became basically useless, rendering any vehicles you had essentially worthless. Every single day would become a frantic and exhausting calculation of calories spent versus the calories gained. You are constantly operating on a state of starvation, leaving you weak, dizzy,
Maggie.
and prone to fatal mistakes.
I don't
And
know,
on
bro.
top
I
of
don't
this,
like
your search
Maggie's
for
character
supplies would
development. I
often
liked
take you
it,
to
but I didn't at the
uncharted
same time. Like,
territories, leaving
sometimes
you at
she be
risk of
acting
being
too
ambushed by
hard.
the people who live
You know
there,
what I'm
or
saying?
just having your camp raided in your absence. And finally, without the use of vehicles, you'd have to be physically fit as well to be able to outrun walkers and maybe even other survivors, and your cardiovascular endurance would be essential to survival in this environment. In
I don't know
conclusion,
how fat
although many
niggas
of
be
us would like
surviving
to
in
imagine
Walking Dead,
ourselves
bro.
as this, in reality, most of us would probably look something like that. Because in order to survive the world of The Walking Dead, you'd have to survive a dormant airborne virus on day one, you'd have to guess the correct rules of the undead in a world where zombie media doesn't exist, you'd have to escape fire-bombed gridlock cities while the military tries to kill you, outsmart the often hostile other survivors, avoid losing your mind from the horrors you'd witness, and somehow find clean water and food every single day. And the harsh reality of it is, the vast majority of us wouldn't be the heroes of this story.
Who would
We'd
it?
either be part of the
Who would
infected
it?
herds wandering aimlessly through the landscape, or be like Clara, an emotional wreck after the death of our loved ones. Because ultimately, survival in this environment is brutal, and it isn't all about how tough you are, because it mostly boils down to a horrifying mix of genetic luck, geographical positioning, and psychological endurance. And that is why 99% of us just wouldn't survive the Walking Dead.
99%.
I mean, the numbers from the series don't lie. But who knows, maybe the future Rick Grimes of the apocalypse is watching this very video, and in that case, I apologize for severely underestimating your abilities.
You got me.
Hey,
Look,
bro.
I better than anybody
Just respect
understand
my name,
how
nigga.
easy The Walking Dead may look to survive, and although it's nowhere near the worst apocalypse you could find yourself in fiction, it would still take a colossal effort just to stay alive. But with that being said, let me know down below in the comments how long you think you'd survive the Walking Dead apocalypse. If you enjoyed today's video, please do like, subscribe, and hype the video if you're a mobile, as it helps the channel out a ton, and we are so close to 40,000 subscribers now, which just feels surreal to say. But once again, a huge thank you for watching today's video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.
Hey man, that's the video, bro. Me personally, after watching this video, I do think it would be difficult, more difficult for me to survive The Walking Dead, but I still think I'll get it done. For real. You know, I think it'll definitely be way more difficult. But drop in the comments if you surviving The Walking Dead or not. Yup.